Hi, Rob. This is Lois.
Hi, Lois. I'm sorry I missed you yesterday.
Yeah.
And I missed everybody the last time around. So welcome, everybody.
Are we all here? Looks like we've got a room full.
Don't know what the rules are, but I'm going to turn my camera off so that we don't run into bandwidth issues. And Lois, are you going to share the note taking?
So I can either share it live or I can take notes and then share it at the end. I'll try to do it live. Sometimes that slows my system way down since I'm remote, but
otherwise I can share it and you can take notes behind the scenes.
Well, why don't we try sharing the live note taking so people can make sure I'm getting it right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Terrific. Right. I'll be there. You can go ahead and take roll if you want, I think.
Okay. I'm going to read from my screen just as they pop up, but Kia, would you mind introducing yourself and saying hello?
Hi, I'm Kia Haynes, and I am a resident of Penrose. I'm also on the staff of MPSA, and I also was seated on the Career Center Working Group, and so I'm here with big interest.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Is Hans here? Let's see. So let's see. We don't have Madeline. We don't have Hans. Is Stephen Baker here?
Madeline is here. Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madeline. I missed you. It is
Nope.
very difficult to see our participants on my screen.
How are you? I'm Madeline LaSalle, and I'm the coordinator for the Academy at the Career Center.
Thank you. Andrew, I see you up on the screen, so.
Hey there, yeah, sorry you're coming in and out. Andrew Moore, I'm a Penrose resident. I'm here representing the Columbia Pike Partnership and have been a member of the previous iterations of school groups going back a decade, and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And David, are you here? Nope. Okay. And did I miss Hans? And Hans is not here. So, okay. Thank you, everybody, for participating. And I'm going to read out our first question. As you can see them on the screen, this first question about the public space between existing ACC and the new ACC and new field. The revised site concept proposes an area between the existing ACC and the new ACC and new field that would both support bus service and service operations during the school day and resemble a public plaza at all other times. What features of this proposal do you like best? And we'll focus it on the positives to begin with, and then we'll get into your suggestions in a moment or so. And I'm gonna ask if you could raise your hand to just be called on so we can not talk over everybody. And if nobody raises their hand, I'm going to call on Kia to start the discussion because I know I've worked with Kia in the past and she has some great opinions and ideas here.
So we're talking about the left, if I'm facing the building from Walter Reed, the left side that's going to be just for public pedestrians only. Is that what we're talking about? I'm just making sure.
I think what we're talking about is the bus loop and how that could be sometimes bus use, sometimes public plaza, and how that may interface as a bus connection to Walter Reed.
Okay, I read that wrong. Hold on. Ooh, I don't know. Come back to me.
Okay. Who else would like to give it a shot? Andrew, please jump in.
It might be helpful if you could put the graphic up, because I'm looking at my graphic and I see the site concept bus circulation 2, which is what they had previously recommend, which is what it seems like staff is going to recommend. Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Because I mean, I look at that, and what I like about option 1 is that you see that plaza with that graphic, and that's what I think of when you were describing it. It seems to me option 2 eliminates that plaza. Is that not correct?
I'm going to say what I think it does is it incorporates some of that idea, but in that space, cars could be, particularly buses, could be coming and going during particular times of the day.
I mean, my preference is I mean, I like having a flex space that could be a pedestrian walkway during certain times and could be accessed through, cars at other times. So, I mean, the concept number 1 appeals to me because you have a dedicated site. But if you need the flex space for concept number 2, it would be nice to have a pedestrian hangout area, kind of like you have in between TJ and Fleet at this point in time, and that's purely pedestrian without any traffic. So I mean, to me, I like the dedicated pedestrian zone.
So I'm sorry, I think I'm hearing two different things. You like that it's a hybrid, or you prefer that it's dedicated?
I prefer option 1. That's my preference. But if you're going to if you're going to go with option 2, I like the idea of not having it be cars all the time. So I like it having being like, okay.
I don't think cars all the time is one of the options. I think it's either never any vehicular traffic, or it's only buses during pickup and drop off.
Then my preference is never.
Okay.
And let's go with Pia. Why don't you jump in?
That's the part I was talking about. That's what he's describing is what I was talking about. Maybe I just didn't make that clear. I like it as either or, but not a hybrid, because I'm thinking about safety. It either needs to be just for pedestrians and only foot traffic. I feel like just now, you know how that area is already, it already sees a lot of foot traffic from people walking up Walter Reed. And I've seen, because I come in early in the morning, and I've seen just how precarious it could be with buses coming through and cars coming through while students are still trying to cross that. So I would rather just see it as solid foot traffic, or leave it the way it is now with pedestrians being directed in another way around it. I don't think it should be both.
Let me just pull a thread on that a little bit. Do you have any preference if it's just bus traffic versus
honestly, I would love it to be just bus traffic, because I don't like the traffic pattern that's there now, the U shape. I feel like that is asking too much of the site to have both ACC buses and MPSA buses go that route. So I would love it if it was just bus traffic for one of the programs to come out that way and in that way, and the MPSA on the other side, kind of like it is now.
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful feedback. Thank you. Let's see. Marion, are you part of the SPRC? BLPC PFRC. We've been given some.
Yes.
Thank you. Jump in.
Yeah, I'm with Columbia Heights Civic Association.
Excellent.
I'm serving actually on both panels for us. Thank you. Yes, so I agree with what Kia just mentioned. While it seems, nice that there would be a pedestrian plaza and the renderings look nice, it doesn't seem safe because if buses are running through at certain times, that means there are pedestrians present too. People are all coming and going at the same time. I don't understand how that would work. And also to her point, having the buses for both programs go through that loop and pass by MPSA seems like a logistical nightmare. It would be better if they both had to enter on Highland, that the Career Center buses went straight through and exited Walter Reed, and the MPSA buses did that loop around the field and out on Highland. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
Leslie, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Leslie, I think you're muted, maybe. Okay, we're gonna see, let's see. Before we jump into the next question, Marion, I think you're in the wrong group, but I'd love to keep you here and have your feedback. So did you have additional feedback?
No, sorry, I just lowered my hand because it was still raised from last time.
Thank you.
I don't know. This was the group that I was pulled into.
That's okay. We love having you. And your feedback will definitely be getting integrated.
Okay.
Let's see.
Robert, this is Madeline. I think you were calling me Leslie, but it's Madeline LaSalle. Is that what happened?
Madeline, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure, so I didn't say anything. And then I realized there were no
first names and last names on the list here.
I wanted to share that I agree that if it's going to be mixed use, I would rather just be utilized by buses, just because I work at the Career Center and I see the potential for harm for our students. But by the same token, if we were able to utilize it as just a plaza, it would be ideal for an extended learning space. And I know that right now we're tight on space, and it's always really nice when we're able to take students out and provide them with an opportunity just to be outside and do activities there. So if we were able to utilize it in that way, it would be really nice.
So to expand on your experience at the site and your thoughts there, the Career Center has multiple buses throughout the day. Do you think that those buses using that space throughout the day would conflict with the goal for extended learning space?
I think that we have managed right now utilizing outdoor space as much as we can, because it's really timed, and we know that it's AM, midday, and at the end of the day for the other schools that are bringing their students in. We're able to time the activities, so it hasn't been an issue, except really early in the morning when the students are crossing and going into the learning cottages. I think that has been, but I think that wouldn't be an issue at that point because we wouldn't have students running across the parking lot to go to class.
Excellent, thank you. Your feedback's very helpful. I'm going to try to transition us to the second part of our question here, and this will give everybody an opportunity to maybe do a yes and add some thoughts or alternatives to either the first option or the second option that we've been discussing. And I'm just going to open the floor to our members to speak up for so the first one to get in, go right ahead. Or we could start with Andrew.
All right. So I think that massing obviously is an issue, and as I think most people are generally in agreement that we want to mass, hire things towards Columbia Pike and towards the single family neighborhoods, keep the mass a little bit lower. But I think that also goes with stepping back and integrating outside space with inside space. So having the ability to visually view the site as greater than it is, even if there's a wall of glass. If you're on the street looking through a wall of glass, it still feels like you've got more space. And the same thing with a wall of glass looking out, you have more space. So using the visual aspects of design in order to create more space, but specifically in that curb cut area on Walter Reed, stepping that back from the curb and pyramiding that up to the fifth level. I agree with the increased height and I realize that there's mass with that. However, I think you can soften the mass in many different ways. And I mean, that's another reason I like the plaza at that area is I think you can bring the outside in and the inside out to create more of a gathering area, a flex space for learning, and just kind of create a more useful community area with good design principles. And so not putting a big box there, but having, softening the edges in order to make the mass feel like it's not as big. 5 stories is tall, and I agree with the idea behind creating taller buildings in Arlington to meet our growing needs. But I think that you can, and I think the best way I can do it is, as I've said before, bring the outside in and the inside out by creating those areas.
If at any point you feel I haven't captured your thoughts with these notes, and I'm addressing everyone here, please speak up.
The only thing I would add is that I think that ties in with the outdoor plaza. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you got that. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Great.
Okay, and then I'm going to not try to cut anybody off, but we are probably running on time. So I do want to ask anybody that has some really critical feedback on B here to jump in. And then, Marion, go right ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I'm just looking at the site concept bus circulation number 2, which I think we're still talking about with regard to the possibility for the pedestrian plaza. It looks like there's kind of a large undefined space just to on the back side of the proposed building. Maybe that's green space. So I'm just wondering so there's the field and then there's the bus route that dissects it in half. And then there's like another area behind the new building. So is there a need for a pedestrian plaza that's in the middle of a bus route if there's some space to be utilized? An unfilled space behind the building is just what I'm seeing. Again, I'm just concerned about mixing pedestrians and buses. So perhaps we could move that concept of a hangout space to the actual open space there instead.
I think that's a great question for the team to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And does anybody else have any questions or comments on how to think about option 2 and improve it? Okay, I'm gonna push us to question number 2. The preliminary site plan included an above grade garage. Feedback from BLPC and PFRC meeting number 1 indicated that some surface parking may be convenient and preferred. Now that an estimate range has been provided for peak parking demand, APS seeks feedback on how that estimate should be how that estimate should influence the quantity and location of on-site parking. The first question, how appealing to you is expanding the parking footprint around the existing ACC building if it were to modify the shape or height of the above grade parking garage? And that could be either fewer stories or simply at grade parking. And I will, let's see, Kia, why don't you jump in if you've got some comments? Otherwise, we'll.
That was a popular subject at school, talking about the parking. It's not that the walk is so far if the garage was on the other side, but we had some staff members who said they would prefer if there was parking on the other side, closer to our building. One, because, you know, teachers do carry materials with them. And there's a lot of materials they have to carry, and closer or having parking available at least midway like it is now is more appealing. The other, and I think this was answered in one of the FAQs actually, was about ADA compliance, about having to be close to an entrance, the parking needing to be near to the front entrance of these facilities. I know I saw in the FAQs they were saying they were going to work with Arlington to come up with handicap parking spaces, but that sounded like they were talking about on the street. Because I'm assuming that that's why they would need to talk to Arlington County about it versus make plans for it. And so the two handicap members of our school said, no, there needs to be surface parking that's within a certain amount of feet of the main entrance in order to be ADA compliant. And so if changing the footprint and adding surface space, parking spaces, more convenient to MPSA and the front of the new Career Center building would, like I said, help with teachers who have to carry materials and also help with ADA compliance. I think we're for it.
Just to be clear that I'm understanding, are you talking about using, let me go back up to the picture, I'm sorry. You're talking about using, can you see if I move my cursor along that space in front of MPSA? That's where the green field is. So you're talking about using some of that field for parking there?
No, unless I misunderstood the question, I thought what you were suggesting, or what it's suggesting, is that there would be more parking put around the old Career Center building. That's surface parking instead of having to go to the parking garage.
So this blue indicates where they could put it.
Right.
So if it were over here where
That's
I think
closer,
today that little playground is, that would satisfy what you're talking about?
I think because it's closer and it's not involving getting into a garage. Because as the person who is handicapped at our school said, even with elevators and stuff like that, it's just more friendly, handicap friendly, to be able to just park and get out and walk the straight line to school. So I think even if that means shrinking the size of the parking garage, I feel that is preferred.
Okay, thank you.
And I think you probably are also saying, hey, look at the regulations and requirements and make sure you meet them.
Yes.
And thank you very much. Who else would like to provide some input?
Robert, can I just interject real quick for Lois so she can take a note? Sorry, everyone. Hi, I'm Daryl Johnson. I work with Lois. Could you just put a note for the ADA to just say it is something to consider for the loop? They may be actually able to do parallel parking within the loop, so that may unfortunately cut into the field. But we do have to check just to make sure that the ADA compliance, if it is within feet. So that is maybe one way we could actually get a couple of spaces there. So, you know, people, either staff, families, or whomever, they'll be able to access it. So just put a little FYI so we can follow up with design and construction. Sorry to interrupt.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Daryl.
This is Marion with Columbia Heights. I again, I agree with Kia, and it would be nice to, you know, have some extra parking spaces even relatively closer to MPSA and the Career Center building itself, in the proposed blue shadows. However, my one concern is if they do put that there and they shrink the size of the garage, and then later on they decide that they need that surface parking lot space for something else to be constructed, and then they take it away, then the garage is already built and there's no adding on at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, I see your camera's on. Why don't you jump in?
And similarly, I would hate to see them shrink the size of the garage for. I mean, obviously, it's an important discussion. I wonder if there's other, kind of locations that it could be without shrinking the size of the garage. Parking is, a fundamentally important aspect of this whole project, not just for the people in the garage, but also for the, people in handicap parking. So, I would hope that there could be some sort of solution that wouldn't, compromise the overall intention of the 400 space garage.
I think you're showing your hand for question B, my friend. But we'll get
Not
to that.
on purpose, but
let's see. Lois or anybody else want to jump in?
I'm just the secretary, so you all go for it.
Thank you. I'm having trouble keeping everybody straight.
No worries.
If you don't want to speak up, that's okay. We've got an online way to provide feedback, but I will move us to the next part.
Well, I'll jump in here real quick with the so I mean, over at Fleet, they underbuilt the parking, and that had a significant impact on staff, and so I think that staff has to be prioritized for the people that are there every day serving our community. I think that has to be a top priority, in my opinion. Not the only priority, but a top priority.
I am gonna put that down here under B. I think we're moving on to B there.
And I will quickly read out B. For each recent capital project, the APS has relied on available and convenient on-street parking to support a limited portion of peak parking demand. If you were to prioritize groups, what groups in APS staff, high school students, library staff, APS library visitors should be prioritized for on-site parking?
As a staff member, I think definitely staff should be prioritized. As retention of effective staff relies on the ability to get there. And sometimes, as it is, if you cannot locate parking or you don't have a garage space, it's very difficult to find parking if you leave to go to a home visit, if you have to do a home visit, or if you have to go to the Ed Center. When you return, you can't find parking. So we really must prioritize ability to be able to not only be at the school, but also mobilize around the district when you have to leave the school.
Kia, do you want to jump in on this, or do you think everybody's covered it for you?
I mean, I do believe staff and library staff should be prioritized, but I have a question. Is there a study, or has there been a study done on how much patronship the library receives? Because I think that would be an important part of trying to figure out how much parking the library would need for their visitors.
I believe it has been included in the data that's collected. But that said, I think your point needs to be answered factually and completely with the data that we present.
Because I would say definitely prioritize staff, because we want our neighbors to like us. And right now with the struggle to find parking on the lot, sometimes there are conflicts that, you know, we would love to avoid with neighbors, because, you know, you got to get to work. And so, you know, everybody tries to do their best to park legally and conveniently, but, you know, sometimes it's a little too close to the corner and makes it hard to make that turn, which is a complaint I received this week. Or, you know, sometimes it's a little too close to someone's driveway. So definitely prioritize, because like Madeline says, the staff needs to get there. They have to get there. So, but I don't want to, I'm losing the word. I don't want to take away from the library's patrons, because they should have a place to park too. As far as school visitors, we've done, at least our school has done all right the past 2 years with our visitors finding places to park. So I'm not really prioritizing that. And then as far as students, I mean, I feel like that's a nice if you can get it, but not necessary.
And I'll say this from our last experience. It sounds like that's a little bit of a change, and it might not be your personal change, from where we were in the last go round of discussions, where student parking was very prioritized.
Right, that wasn't me. I do remember that
Yeah.
that was a robust discussion, but from my personal point of view, you know, I know some kids drive and they need it, especially to work and everything, but I feel like, I mean, what are they doing now? Because there's no parking there now for students. And so that's what I mean, like students have managed and our visitors have managed without, you know, because the only complaint I hear about parking comes from staff. I haven't really heard any from students or visitors. So that's where my opinion comes from.
Okay. Marion?
Thanks. Yes, I would also prioritize parking for staff for both school programs and library. And then I would second students that do need to drive should have parking, whether that's in the garage or if the county is able to dedicate some street parking spaces for them. I'm just having flashbacks if I went to a small college and if I was running late for class, I could not find parking and it was very, very stressful. And I'm afraid that that might prohibit some students from wanting to attend this school for those that do need to rely on their own transportation. And then I would also recommend if the county can dedicate some visitor parking for the library patrons, maybe along Walter Reed, closer to that entrance, then that would also free up dedicated spaces within the garage or any extra surface parking lots that are implemented. Thanks.
So you brought up a good question that isn't in this question, but as the moderator, I'm going to ask it. What do you have any opinion on what need to drive means? Can you define
what
that?
You mean for a student?
Yes, please.
Just with whatever their school schedule is, that if they're unable to take the buses, and I'm not as familiar with how the program itself is run when they're coming from one of the other high schools. So let's just say they can't take the bus for whatever reason. Maybe they have another extracurricular activity like sports or a job, or they have to go pick up a sibling or a family member, whatever their personal, routine is, and they need to have their own means of transportation to and from the site. I just would feel really sorry if they decided it was too stressful, or, you know, they couldn't park to get to where they need to go, and they dropped their class or didn't even take it to begin with.
That's helpful. I think it's good to get as much input and consideration in here as we take this out to our other groups and everything, and go forward. Does anybody else have?
We're doing all this for the students, right? So we don't want to make it harder on them to be able to access all these programs that, you know, we're building up this beautiful new school for them. If you build it, they will come. Well, can they come? You know, if they don't have parking, it's the same thing with the staff. You know, and I'm sure maybe I believe there was a study on this in the last round, and maybe I missed it in these slides on, you know, how many students are actually driving themselves, but that would be important to see.
Thank you. I'm gonna transition us to our next questions. I am doing terrible with our time management, so I'm gonna, hopefully if anybody has additional things to add, we can put them in the online portion as you have great ideas later tonight. And so our next question is, there you go. Strengths and concerns with the revised site plan. We're going to go with which aspects of the building and site concept offer the most appeal to you. And I'm going to just open the floor just so we can quickly get in our comments.
Rob, can you remind me what time we're supposed to be back in the group?
8:15. Okay,
we do want to save 5 minutes to get people's thoughts on what they want me to bring forward to the rest of the group.
Okay.
It's 8:30. I'll do a 5-minute reminder at 8:25. So you have
fantastic.
More time. Yeah.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
So we're on to the what aspects of the building site concept offer the most appeal to everybody?
Should we be commenting on the different designs that were presented, or you mean in general? Because in the handout, there's like 4 different designs.
I think those 4 images were of the same option too.
But they were a little different each one. Like I have a preference for the one with the terraces.
I think that's one side of the building. That's the side on Walter Reed that has the terraces.
But I mean, I think that what you're also expressing is that is appealing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's what you're asking, like which ones that, you know, but you mean in general, not just the specific. I do like that they're massing in subgroups instead of the one solid structure that it had before. And I do like that it's leveling down so that there's not a big, huge shadow on our school, not as big of a shadow on the school and the play area. And that's different from last time.
Thank you. Oh, who wants to speak?
I'll chime in. It's Marian again. Yes, so I also like the concept of the massing and the one with the terraces. I think he is referring to. It goes up to 5 stories at Walter Reed, and the bus entrance exit, but it looks like they have terraces scaling that up as well. And then again, they scaled down towards 7th Street. And I like that the building it's like not in line, so that they're opening up the sidewalk and the areas along Walter Reed. It's like a zigzag, a little offline. I can't quite describe it, but I like how that looks too, to create kind of a wider sidewalk area.
It sounds like you did your homework, so
I'm looking at the slide.
Applaud you for that.
I'm looking at the slide.
Very good. Andrew, do you have anything that you'd like to add on this?
I'll agree with what was previously said. I mean, and what I had previously said. I mean, the terrace and the stepping back and the massing I think they're starting to get it right in the most recent concept. And then I'll just add that slide 34 of this actually looks at parking. So if you guys have some more questions, it doesn't answer all your questions, but it does answer that. But I think with this massing, they're going in the right direction.
Anybody else?
Did you have a comment based on slide 34, or you're just directing the other side?
Just saying that there's something about parking there that kind of shows how much high school parking there was. There was some previous discussion about that. So I just wanted
Thank you.
to show people that it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, without any further comment, I'm going to transition to which aspects of the building and site concept offer the least appeal to you.
The U parking loop.
The bus loop, you mean?
Bus loop, yes, I'm sorry.
Can you tell me why?
Because I think that's having too much traffic, bus traffic, go in the same direction. I still think that the Career Center buses need to exit from a different way than the MPSA buses, and I feel for Highland Street, because that is going to be a lot of traffic directed to Highland Street.
Okay. Go right ahead, Andrew.
I'll take a contrary opinion to that. I would prefer to consolidate the overall space to create less roads, and I think that is the most effective compact use of travel space in that. And then you can regain the exit onto Walter Reed for more flex space, more alternative learning spaces, more buffer zone between Walter Reed and the most massive part of the buildings. But the thing that stands out to me is that I don't like the most, I think, is the field. I don't think it's big enough. And there may not be any ability to change that, but that's about, kind of using the space in the most effective means possible. And I think, maybe just having a road go straight through, and without having that, the U that goes by the Montessori school. I don't know. But the field seems too small, and I think that kind of touches on just a bigger issue, is that the general amenities of this project don't seem to meet my overall expectations. When we were talking about this 2-3 years ago, it was a different project. It was differently funded. It was differently scoped, and I understand that. However, I think that we've lost a lot in the past 2 years. The space for a swimming pool, a regulation size field. There's a lot that's going on that, and I understand it, but I don't like the fact that we've lost as many amenities as we have.
Thank you. It's good to make sure that we keep that in the discussion. Let's see. Does anybody else have comments before we move on to the question number 4? Okay. Hearing none. Alignment with the PFRC principles of civic design. Which, if any, principles of civic design do not seem to be reflected in the revised building and site concept? How might such principles be made more apparent in the concept design? This is a very complex question, so you are all challenged to answer it.
I don't like where they're proposing to put the entrance, only because I feel like if it's supposed to be for the students and the staff to come in? Why is it on that corner of Walter Reed instead of more towards the inside of the campus? Because the parking garage is across the way. The buses will be letting off on that side. Is there, unless I'm missing a second entrance? Because they have the entrance on Walter Reed, on the corner that's on Walter Reed. I just feel like it should be on the other side. Of the
I think
same
that's
side of the building, but the other side of the building.
Yeah, more internal to the loop
Yes,
than the street side.
right. And that's
That's a good
sorry,
point.
and that's
And also
for number 8.
30.
For the PFRC Principles of Civic Design number 8, orient primary building entrance to the appropriate adjacent street or public space. So movement and entrance to buildings are neutral and intuitive. So I feel like where they have it now is not really taking advantage of that. It's not really reflecting that concept, since having the entrance face more internal would be, to me, more beneficial and more fluid than having them have to walk around to the front.
And I think that is a great discussion starter. Does anybody have any additions to that or counterpoints to that? Please jump in.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
think that's a great point.
Oh. Go ahead.
Oh, Marion, go right ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and sorry, Key, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just was saying you're making a good point. And also from a safety perspective, having the main entrance facing a very busy public street, to me, just as a parent, makes me a little wary. I'd prefer to also see it on that backside corner, towards the bus driveway, and it just makes more sense as well, especially in inclement weather for anyone walking across the campus, just making it a shorter commute.
Andrew, were you jumping in there, or was that Kia?
No, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just saying I thought that was a good point. I agree.
Okay. Do we have any further comments from the group on number 4? We're now getting to the point where we could get to number 5 and get some time for recap. Or I'm sorry, number 5 is the recap?
No, number 5 is sort of the parking lot of everything we didn't ask about in 1 through 4.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So anything else anyone wants to bring up?
So we've got 8 or 10 minutes, and we've got a few people here who haven't spoken, and I know that that's because everybody's being very polite and keeping it to the group. But if you haven't spoken, we're going to try to, I think we might try to get your input in here at the end and give you a chance to speak, because we have the time. But anybody that is in our core team that's been speaking, please provide any last thoughts. And first one to speak, go right ahead. Go ahead, Andrew.
It's me again. I worry about the phasing. There were some issues brought up about phasing of construction and how I believe the existing baseball field would be used as swing space or staging space in order to construct that, and so that MPSA would lose a playground before there's and I'm sure there's a plan for it, but I worry about the staging in general on the site and how you move from A to B to back to B and then to C in order to get it all. So the construction phasing is a concern because this is going to be an active site year round. And so, that's a concern for me. that was brought up.
Thank you. Mary, Nia?
I'm okay. I think we've all brought up some good points of concern.
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to take a second to open it up to our other members that haven't spoken and have been very polite in letting the core group speak. But Claire, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
I'm just starting to kind of learn about the issue, so I would just say that I have a home in Arlington Heights. That overall, I would be supportive of the project as a way of helping Arlington to accommodate more students and density as it grows.
Thank you. Let's see. Natalie, you've had a chance to speak, but did you want to add anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Nia, would you like to add anything?
Hey, Rob.
Hi.
It's nice to see you and nice to hear everybody's comments. Unfortunately, I missed the first meeting, and while I am aware of what has happened in the past, a lot of the comments that have been made tonight, I agree with. When I heard buses and pedestrians in the same sentence, it makes me nervous. And I really appreciate hearing the comments of the folks who are working down there now, as I don't. That's really important as those of us who will be seeing, this project through. I wouldn't have that insight, and so I appreciate that. So tonight for me, I was mostly observing, since I did again miss the first one, but I've heard a lot of good comments, and I agree with a lot of them that were made. So thank you.
Perhaps we can go through from the beginning and I can highlight, I don't know, something from each question, and then we can decide what the top 3 might be that I would bring forward to the rest of the group. And then if other things occur to you, I'm happy to add them into either the questions or the last category. Does that sound like it works?
Lois, that sounds great. If you can take control of that, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm hoping you can see what's on the screen. In fact, I suppose I can actually increase it. No, I can't. So under public spaces, space between the existing career center, the new career center, and the new field, we have, I think, several people saying not to have pedestrian part-time and bus part-time, but to keep them separate. And either do all buses cutting through and not a pedestrian plaza, or some people prefer to have the pedestrian plaza and keep all of the buses on the U shape. So I don't know if we have a real consensus there beyond we don't like having pedestrians and buses in the same space. Does that sound about right?
I'm going to say that's kind of what I was hearing also, but
okay.
I'm certainly not the most important or an important voice in that.
Okay, so I've just written pedestrians and buses shouldn't share. It's sort of an all or nothing. So if you feel differently about that, speak up, please. Okay. Question B, are there other alternative suggestions? I think we were looking at the large undefined space on the back side of the building was one thing I was hearing. What's that about? Could that be the plaza? And And then I think we were actually sort of talking about the more general issues of the massing here with the glass wall being tied in with the plaza and the terraces. The idea of increasing the height at one end and stepping it back and softening the edges with terraces was very appealing. Did I catch that? Did I get everything there?
I think that's perfect.
Okay. Okay, great. On-site parking. And so
actually,
here,
can we go back to this?
absolutely.
Your last comment?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things we started to hear in one of the subsequent questions was about how to connect the bus space with the main entrance and sort of a concern about having the bus arrival sort of separated from that area. Was that something that was echoed? And did I get that right? And is that appropriate to put here? Without any objection, I guess we'll move on.
Okay. Okay. On-site parking, how appealing is it to you to expand the footprint around and that would make the walk not so far, but you might even prefer it closer for MPSA and perhaps for the Career Center as well. So I think we have a lot of concerns about the ADA compliance, and I'm going to make that by the front entrances. And that on-street might not be good enough. And then I think we heard the voice too that we would hate to see the parking garage shrink. And I'm not sure if I heard this or if I just thought it and added it, but possibly look at placing the garage closer. Did that come from the group or did I make that up?
I kind of heard a general concern about how far the walk is from the garage or from parking.
Yeah.
And I would say, to clarify, hate to see the garage shrink, that it might be hate to see the parking count shrink.
Ah, okay.
Is that a better characterization, everybody?
I concur.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's specific to the actual garage though, because again, once that's up, they're not going to do anything to it in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And did I misunderstand the question? I thought the question was saying that if there was more surface parking, then they would shrink the number of the garage parking, but I thought it was an exchange. Like if we take 100 spaces out of the garage, we'll put them around the school. Or is that not what it was saying?
I don't think that the determination's been made one way or another, so it's kind of open.
Well, they were showing those other areas highlighted in blue where they could extend surface parking, like to the right of the garage above the existing Career Center. That was my concern that, okay, well, if they put a surface parking lot there and they take away 100 spots in the garage, but 5 years later, they decide they need to build over the surface parking lot, then you're out 100 spaces in the garage.
I think that's a fair comment to keep in our notes here.
Yes. Yes, I'm looking to see if I have that.
That was the comment you just.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, would it take back and then be too late to add to the garage? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then let's see, we have the reliance on on-street parking. and who should get priority. And I think we were hearing pretty clearly staff is the priority. I mean, I have that in here repeatedly. And that would be
And I
staff,
think it was-
both for the library. Sorry?
I think it was staff, library staff, and then library visitors. But
Okay, does that sound right?
and then I think also ADA visitors and access in general.
Okay, good. Did I get represent everybody there?
I still think the students are important, but whatever the majority, priority is, just you can go with that.
Thank you, Rob and Lois. I think they're going to cut us off soon.
Okay, number 3, aspects of the building site concepts most appeal. I think we liked the terraces, the breaking down of the massing, the sort of, what did we call it? I called it subgroups massing. Okay, I'm racing along here now. The least appealing, again, we're back to buses. The fact that we have to have them on the property, and the lowered expectations for this go around.